You know, something really strange that I got in a comment once or twice, and I never really thought I'd touch on it ever because it seemed a little silly to me, is the question of whether or not free and open source software is socialist. Now, the problem with this is socialism is usually it's a form of governance. It's not, it doesn't quite fit open source software. And to give you the very short answer, no, even if you stretch it, open source software, which I'm not going to say free and open source software, but open source is not socialist. It is charity. It is sharing something that can be copied freely to the benefit of all. In socialism, you don't have the ability to copy. Now, why am I saying copy? Because copying is not theft. And in socialism, the government system, the general way that most people understand it, you can get way into the weeds on definitions because so many people don't really understand socialism. But the colloquial way to understand it is from each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. Which really just means you give of yourself what you can and you take what you need to get by or to get things done, whatever. It's really a utopian sort of vision. The problem is scarcity. The whole problem with socialism ultimately boils down to scarcity. These notions of personal versus private property that aren't true because personal property is private property. The idea of private versus public property. Where do you draw the line? The camera. This is my classic example. Any socialist would come up to me and say, oh, personal property is separate from private property. Private property needs to be abolished, but personal property, that's different. That's fine. Personal property you get to keep, but private property must go away and it all becomes everyone else's stuff too. All it takes is one greedy person for that to kind of not work out very well, so you have to regulate the greedy people. And I don't want to make this about socialism, just as a general concept. I really just don't want to make it about that. These stoplights are out. That's really unfortunate. So because socialism is a government system that basically relies on a utopian vision that can never be fulfilled due to resource and labor scarcity, a person can only produce so much. You can only have so many resources generated in a day by a group of people. And if you have too many free riders or whatever, too many drains on the system, if you have more water draining out of the bottom of the sink than you have flowing in from the faucet, what do you think's going to happen? It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? At some point, the sink is empty and the water is just going straight down the big gaping hole. And that's when you have riots and bread lines and basically you switch from utopia to dystopia and you regulate everything from the top down with a bullet. That's the problem in general with the governmental system of socialism. Socialism doesn't really apply to open source software because open source software is based on digital media. It is based on files. It is based on data in a computer. And what can you do with data in a computer? You can copy it. Copying is not theft. There's a song about that. If I remember to, I'll link it in the description. But copying is not theft because let's just take the example in the video. Let's say you have legs but no torso and a head but no ears. And the other person has the opposite. They have no head and no legs, but they have a torso and ears. Well, if each of you copies what you've got and swaps the copies, like you give the copy to each other, then you both have full bodies now. And that's what the cartoon basically does in the Copying is Not Theft music video. Now, this notion that copying is not theft, it sounds great in theory, but I will hear someone for sure say, wait a minute, piracy is stealing. Piracy, that's stealing, and that's copying. So how can it not be theft if it is theft? And that's because piracy is not theft, because piracy is copying, and copying is not theft. granted, if you make a copy of something, then you do have to have the resources to produce that second copy. Back in the day, on computers even, if you made a copy and gave it to someone else, someone had to provide the floppy disk to put it on. Or later on, the optical disk or the flash drive or external hard drive or whatever. But that's just sort of it's like a transient expense, because the drive doesn't get destroyed once they make that copy, or they take that copy off the drive and put it on their computer. So really, the cost of a copy in the modern age is pretty much nothing. It's just a few electrons. It's more a function of time than it is of anything else. How long does it take for you to make the copy and successfully deliver it? And with digital data, a lot of that's near instantaneous and can be done at rates of, depending on where you are and what your equipment's like, gigabytes a second, potentially. Some internet connections are so fast that they can transfer. If you have a 2.5 gigabit connection, that's about 250 to 300 megs a second. It's a third of a gigabyte a second. And there's a lot of seconds in a day. I'm just going to tell you right now, there's a whole lot of seconds in a day. I think the number's 86,400, but I can't remember for sure. So you can make a lot of copies very quickly. If you have 100 people that have computers that have no operating system, or more realistically, if you have 100 people that have computers but have no office suite, and you make a copy of an office suite, and you give a copy each to those people, say you send it over the network, so there's not even an intermediate disk and walking around, you just send 99 copies of an office suite that you happen to have to them. Now, 100 of you have copies of that office suite. 100 of you have the ability to use an office suite where before only one of you could. So now 100 of you have the ability to heighten your productivity. This is the magnifying force behind open source software, and why even Microsoft has given in a lot of ways to the open source ecosystem. It's why Microsoft supports Linux where they didn't before. Microsoft doesn't really make a lot of money off of Windows, especially not off of me or him, her, or whatever, that walks into a store and buys a computer. The copy of Windows is a joke compared to what they make for their hosted services and for their big enterprise software. So the beauty of open source is that you can take effort, put it into creating a file or whatever program, or enhancing a program, then distribute that program or that enhancement or whatever to everybody that uses it or needs it or whatever, and the legal system and some big corporation, generally speaking, will not get in your way. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Oh, but if everybody's coding according to their ability and then taking according to their need, isn't that socialism? Well, no, because socialism's a form of governance. Like I said, it's charity. You give what you can, and when you need something, you take it. But the difference between socialism and charity is that socialism is defined by resource scarcity and is administered by a central authority that has power over you. Charity is not. Charity is optional. You don't have to participate. You don't have to take from it. You're not required to have anything to do with it. And the resource scarcity, yes, still exists in charity, but it doesn't exist the way that it exists when the government is forcing the whole country, for example, to produce rice or whatever. If everybody's making rice, well, then there's no high nutrient fruits, vegetables, meats, take your pick, available for people to eat. What are you going to do? Now you have to import it. Now your economy collapses because you were stupid and made a bunch of rice for some weird reason. Oh, and it just happens that this year it was too dry to make a bunch of rice. Actually, this happened in Japan a year or two ago, I think. They got some weird stuff going on with their rice. But anyway, the bottom line is that no, open source software is not socialist. And I think what's really going on when people try to claim that open source software is socialist is that they are socialist, or at least they think they're socialist, and it's all just a giant cope. They don't want to feel bad about the fact that they're socialist. So open source software, it has the smell of idealistic, non-scarce resource socialism. Star Trek The Next Generation socialism, if you will. And because it has this sort of smell of socialism, and because, I like socialism, and I want socialism to be the way that everything is, wouldn't it be great if we all could just get along and there was no resource scarcity? It's gotta be. It has to be socialism. Everything has to be socialism. Because if everything isn't socialism, then my ideology has not been accepted, and I might have to come to terms with the fact that I might be wrong about it. That's it. It's pathetic. It's an attempt to take something that people went into, originally, they went into it just to have fun. They shared it because they thought other people might be able to use it. And these people are trying to co-opt it. Now, let's apply this to the greater free and open source software ecosystem today in 2025, as of this recording. For over a decade, the open source software ecosystem has been taken over by huge corporations, and those huge corporations have been absolutely overrun with rainbow-haired bugs that are absolutely tainted with ideology, far leftist ideology, and they insist that everything must conform to this political ideology. But when I run a program to list the contents of a directory, the only thing that I need, want, or will accept from it is a program that lists the contents of the directory. I don't want a program that lists the contents of the directory. Plus, by the way, you agree in this weirdo license we've cooked up, or you agree because we'll bully you on Twitter if you don't act the way we want you to behave. You agree that you will respect our current fleeting notion of what is considered to be inclusive and equitable today. Today, and it can change, by the way. Remember, it can always change over time. Boy, has it changed over time. Boy, has that scope crept. English is obviously a problem right now. But anyway, you get the general idea of what I'm saying. I don't think I have to go too far into this. If there's something that you didn't understand, or if you just think that I left something out, let me know. And if you think I'm wrong, well, you're wrong. So get over it. Leave a comment. Take your ban and get gone. That'll be fun. I love banning people in the comments section. It makes me so happy. But I will let you know right now, I won't ban you from commenting if you are reasonable and you actually try to have a rational discussion. I will ban you if you decide to argue with me in bad faith, or you get the general idea. I don't have to go on and on about this. Maybe I'll just edit all that out. Who knows? Why are you still watching this? I thought I edited all that out. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. Take care. Thanks for watching. But it doesn't apply to open source software. There are police signaling because the lights are all out. This is unfortunate. This is super duper unfortunate. I don't know what happened, but they had that whole road closed back there. Holy crap. Anyway, so all the stoplights being knocked out and a road closure and the cops having to do the signaling has kind of thrown me off my beat here a bit. I'm so sorry. But you never know what's going to happen on Rollin' Rambles, because we're rolling, and other people are too. Apparently into giant power transformers. I have no idea what happened, but that's a lot of electricity that's not working. Anyway, because open source, free and open source software, generally speaking, oh, look at this lunatic. Let's give him a toot toot.